I was saved by God to make America great again. The golden age of America begins right now.
On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States, marking a historic return to power and an immediate push to reshape American policies. Within hours, he signed a flurry of executive orders, reflecting his America First agenda and reversing many of his predecessors' actions. From pardoning over 1,500 people connected to the January 6th Capitol attack, to declaring an energy emergency and withdrawing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord, these sweeping actions touched on immigration, energy, and federal reforms.
There will be more than 100, possibly up to 200, executive actions and orders that he will sign over the next few days. Let's see if they announce each one.
CEOs and presidential memoranda.
You want to call it out? Do you want to say it? You want to say it?
Oh, if you want me to, sir.
Why don't you say what I'm signing?
Sure. The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
Immigration overhaul and border security measures. President Trump wasted no time in addressing immigration, a cornerstone of his political agenda, with decisive action. Declaring a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border underscored the urgency his administration placed on controlling immigration and curbing what Trump has described as a crisis. The declaration allowed the mobilization of federal resources, including military personnel, to support immigration authorities. The deployment of troops will aid in reinforcing the border wall, a hallmark of Trump's policy and a symbolic representation of his stance on national security. A centerpiece of his immigration policy is the reinstatement of the Remain in Mexico program. Under this policy, asylum seekers must wait across the border while their cases are processed. Proponents argue this reduces strain on U.S. immigration courts and discourages fraudulent claims. But critics have raised concerns about the humanitarian implications, pointing to reports of asylum seekers living in unsafe and overcrowded conditions while awaiting resolution. Trump also eliminated the CBP-1 app introduced during Biden's administration to streamline legal entry processes. By discontinuing the app, Trump signaled a return to stricter enforcement measures, emphasizing the importance of a physical presence in border control. One of the most controversial moves was his executive order targeting birthright citizenship. The order seeks to amend automatic citizenship for children born in the U.S. to undocumented parents. Trump has long criticized this practice, calling it a loophole in immigration policy. However, the constitutionality of such a change will undoubtedly face legal challenges, as birthright citizenship is rooted in the 14th Amendment. Another significant step was the suspension of the U.S. refugee admission program. Trump cited concerns over community safety and the strain on resources as reason for the suspension. The measure also aligns with his broader goal of reassessing immigration programs to prioritize public safety and national security. Economic policies and energy independence. Trump's economic and energy policies took center stage as he signed a series of executive orders aimed at revitalizing American industries and addressing inflation. At a high-profile event in Washington, Trump directed federal agencies to prioritize measures to reduce consumer costs. A key element of this strategy involves easing regulations on oil and natural gas production, particularly in resource-rich areas like Alaska. The president declared an energy emergency, enabling his administration to expedite energy projects and sidestep regulatory hurdles. The move reflects his commitment to fossil fuel reliance as a means of reducing energy costs for American consumers. He also signed orders rescinding the Biden-era policies that promoted renewable energy sources. He argued that such initiatives imposed unnecessary costs on the economy and were not viable solutions for energy independence. One of the most dramatic actions was withdrawing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accord. Trump criticized the agreement as a burden on American industries, claiming it unfairly favored other nations at the expense of U.S. economic growth. His administration also halted federal subsidies for wind and solar energy projects, which he described as inefficient and detrimental to natural landscapes. He also announced tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, arguing that these measures would protect American jobs and industries. The tariffs, set to take effect in February, reflect Trump's continued focus on trade protectionism. He also hinted at revisiting tariffs on Chinese imports, signaling a broader effort to strengthen domestic manufacturing.
Yes, sir. First, we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon.
Pardons and the justice system. The use of presidential pardons on his first day in office showcased his commitment to addressing what he described as injustices against his supporters. Among the 1,500 people granted clemency were those charged in connection with the January 6th Capitol attack. Trump's decision to pardon people convicted of assaulting law enforcement officers and other crimes during the riot drew praise from his base, but sparked outrage among critics who saw it as undermining accountability. Trump also issued an executive order directing federal agencies to drop ongoing cases against his political allies. Framing these cases as examples of quote-unquote weaponized justice, Trump claimed they were politically motivated and part of a broader abuse of federal power. The action has raised concerns about the potential erosion of the independence of the justice system. In a further assertion of executive authority, Trump revoked security clearances for several prominent figures, including former CIA Director John Brennan and former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Trump justified these moves as necessary to protect national security and prevent the misuse of classified information. Critics argued the actions were politically motivated and targeted people who had been vocal opponents of Trump's policies.
From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Cultural and social policy shifts. Trump's executive orders also reflected his administration's cultural priorities, including significant shifts in federal policies on gender and diversity. One order redefined gender in federal policies to be strictly based on biological sex at birth. This change affects a wide range of programs, from federal prisons to healthcare services. The administration also ended federal funding for gender transition treatments, framing the decision as a measure to protect taxpayer resources. Another order eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within federal agencies. Trump's administration argued that these initiatives were divisive and counterproductive, redirecting resources towards more traditional governance priorities. In symbolic moves that underscored his commitment to what he described as traditional American values, he ordered the renaming of landmarks and institutions. The Gulf of Mexico was renamed the Gulf of America, and Denali reverted to its previous name, Mount McKinley. Trump also mandated that flags be flown at full height on future inauguration days, regardless of other events, as a consistent expression of national pride.
That feud goes all the way back to COVID. Pandemic. President Trump has been skeptical of global organizations where he feels as though the U.S. may be overpaying for something and not getting as much in return. This is a big international story this morning. The World Health Organization out with a statement saying they hope that the U.S. reconsiders this.
Foreign policy and America's role on the global stage. President Trump's return to office has brought a renewed focus on his America First policy, with several executive orders signaling a shift away from international cooperation. One of his first moves was to formally withdraw the U.S. from the World Health Organization, citing what he described as a lack of accountability and an over-reliance on U.S. funding. Trump argued it had become a vehicle for global interests at the expense of American taxpayers. He also signed an executive order to review all U.S. foreign aid programs. The order directs federal agencies to identify spending that he claims does not directly benefit American interests. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about Trump's sweeping executive actions on his first day? Let us know in the comments section below.